Bako, look over there. Bako turned to his wife, who was almost weightless with excitement, rising on her heels as though the ground could no longer hold her. Her eyes wide and bright with a childlike innocence that softened him despite himself. Her broad smile curved across her face, tapering gently beneath the delicate shadows of her dimples. "What is it, honey?" Bako said. "Look over there," she said, pointing again. "Aren't they cute?" She slipped her slim, tender arms around Bako's broad, muscular one, squeezing it into a tight hug. "Zora. My sweet Zora," Bako thought, his mouth curving into a soft smile. He followed her finger. Out front of the supermarket, on one of the iron benches chained to the sidewalk, a teenage couple shared an ice cream cone. She'd take a lick, giggling, and then push it back at him. He pretended to dodge it, feigning disinterest, then leaned in anyway. Watching them, Bako felt a twinge of nostalgia, a memory of simpler days, of laughter that came easy, young love, messy, carefree, and recklessly sweet. Behind them, the supermarket loomed with its two giant windows, smudged with dust and fingerprints. Bold red letters screamed, "Sale! This weekend only. The same lie every weekend. Hogwash," Bako thought. Always the same bait, same hook, and Zora could never resist. She always fell for it, even when she knew better. Bako had long accepted it. Zora, his love, his sweet, sweet Zora, would forever keep his wallet on a diet. The thought creased the corner of his lips into a small, amused smile. The faint smell of freshly painted pavement drifted up from the walkway, mingling with the morning air, reminding him of the day he had painted his room with his mother, before she lost her mind and was taken to a mental hospital. What a sad day that was. This was one of the memories he keeps in a don't open box in his mind. For a moment the thought hovered in the far corner of his mind, but when his eyes settled on the girl, the knot in his stomach loosened and calm washed over him. She looked like Zora once had, or close enough. Same long legs under a skirt that barely covered anything, same tumble of dark hair, same half-daring smile. Except Zora had never pierced her belly button or branded a date into the side of her neck in blue ink. The numbers itched at him even from this distance. "Bako." Her voice snapped him out of it. He blinked, dragging his gaze back to his wife. She was smiling, but not quite. "Yes, honey," he said. Then, because the thought stuck in his mouth like a burr, "She looks a little like you." Zora blushed. "No, she doesn't." "Sure she does. Those big round eyes, the dimples. That's you, just minus a few years." "Excuse me, what are you trying to say?" "I mean, she's you minus the maturity," he said, leaning in to kiss her forehead. Then he bent closer, whispering hot in her ear, "And she definitely doesn't have your—" He paused for a second, his hands moving playfully, tracing the curve of her hips. "She doesn't have your grace," looking her in the eyes, giving a wink, followed by a warm smile. Zora's cheeks flushed pink, and she gave him a playful punch on the chest, laughing softly at his teasing. Bako let out a small chuckle, shaking his head with affectionate amusement. "You got that right, mister." Zora's grin stretched wide, her dimples cutting deep. She had always been a sucker for public affection, and Bako knew it. He knew her anger and where to tug at it till it crumbles into laughter. "Next," the cashier barked from inside, breaking the spell. They shuffled forward, Bako pushing a trolley with one bum wheel that squeaked every third rotation. His eyes weren't on the cart, though. They were glued to the sway of Zora's hips. "How come you don't buy me ice cream anymore, like that cute young man out there?" she asked over her shoulder, teasing. Bako didn't answer right away, caught in some boyish daydream, as if the sway of her hips had hypnotized him. "Hey, eyes up here, mister," Zora said, arching her back slightly, her cheek dimples flashing as she swayed her hips gracefully to the side. One hand rested above her hip, the other in front of her face, fingers gesturing toward her eyes. Bako mumbled and coughed. Now it was his turn to blush. "You're hopeless," Zora said, her laughter soft and musical. "I asked you why you don't buy me ice cream anymore, and you're lost in thought again." Bako opened his mouth, then closed it, coughing as if trying to find his voice, a flicker of embarrassment warming his cheeks. "You think he's cute?" His voice was softer than intended. "Don't change the subject, mister. And yes, look at those arms. I bet he's got a six-pack under there, unlike someone I know." Bako looked down at himself, a wry smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Still solid in the shoulders, still strong, but age had softened him around the middle. "Well, I can buy you all the ice cream you could eat," Bako said, his voice regaining confidence. "And this little thing," he added, smacking his belly and letting it jiggle a little, "are the marks of a working man, signs of youth well spent, not some boyish tummy." Zora laughed, dimples flashing once more, and he began unloading groceries onto the belt. The cashier scanned them with a steady beep, beep, her eyes distant, as if staring at something far away. They paid for the groceries and pushed the squeaky cart out into the lot. "Can you get the door for me?" Bako asked, shifting the bags. "Honey? Zora?" His voice trailed off. She wasn't beside him anymore. She had stopped near the wall by the doors, staring at a crookedly stapled poster. The photo was grainy, the kind of black and white image you get from a traffic camera. A man on a Harley, denim jacket flapping, license plate bold and easy, Ryder. How original, Bako thought, though his attention was pulled toward the second image. A baby, maybe 6 months old. Big eyes, soft cheeks. The caption twisted his stomach. Abducted. Parents murdered. 50,000 rand reward to anyone with information. Zora's face had gone pale. Bako didn't need to ask why. 3 pregnancies, 3 miscarriages, all ended the same way, at 6 months. She had made her peace, or claimed to, but Bako knew it was a lie. Every stroller, every child's laugh, every picture of a baby tugged at her heart like claws. He slipped his arms around her shoulders, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "Let's go, honey," he murmured, his voice low and steady, trying to anchor her in the moment. "I'm all right," she sniffled. She wasn't. She never really was. Bako loaded the bags at the back, shutting the door with a solid thump, then pushed the squeaky cart back toward the entrance. As he turned, his eyes caught the poster again. The rider's face was blurry, but the baby's eyes were sharp, almost piercing. They stayed with him as he slid the shopping cart back to the other carts. In the car, Zora popped the glove compartment, her personal makeup drawer, and pulled out lipstick. She flipped the visor mirror down, painted her lips, and checked her work with careful precision. The passenger door creaked open. "Vanilla for a lovely lady," Bako announced, holding out an ice cream cone. Her smile widened, dimples flashing, and she gave him her cheek to kiss. He kissed her there, then on the lips. "Bako, no, the lipstick," she giggled, batting at him. But he didn't stop, smearing her with kiss after kiss until her lips, chin, and cheeks were painted red. "No, no, no, Bako, stop it," she squealed, laughter bubbling out of her chest. "See? Much better," he said with a grin at his handiwork. Now I have to start all over," she said, digging out wet wipes and scrubbing her face with exaggerated patience, still laughing. He shut her door, went around, got in the car and started the engine. Before shifting into first gear, easing off the clutch and driving off, Zora held out the ice cream cone to him. "Here," then stopped suddenly and laughed. "What?" Baco frowned. "You've got lipstick all over you." She licked her finger, scrubbing his mouth like a mother cleaning a child. "You really are hopeless," she said, still giggling. "Hopelessly in love," Baco replied, his eyes flicking to hers with a warm and quiet affection. She smiled, bright and unguarded. Baco pulled out of the lot, the morning sun spilling over the car, the groceries jostling softly in the back. Soon they were on the open road. Chapter 2. It was just Baco, Zora, and the groceries in Baco's old Hilux Baki, the one he'd converted into a breakdown pickup. The oldies station slid into a song they both knew. Baco drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. Zora picked up the harmony, soft and sure. When the melody dipped into the bridge, they fell into a brief, companionable silence, then burst into laughter with the chorus, stealing glances at each other, bright smiles flashing. The road hummed beneath the tires. The loose chain hanging off the back of the pickup rattled and swung with every bump. For a few seconds, life felt easy, ordinary, whole. Up ahead, a Harley-Davidson rumbled on the shoulder, its engine loud enough to make the Baki shudder. The rider leaned back, relaxed, basking in the sun like he owned the road. Denim jacket. It can't be, Baco thought. License plate. Rider. Strapped to the back, God help him, was a baby carrier. Zora's smile drained away. "Do you see that?" she whispered. Baco lowered the radio, eased off the gas to keep pace with the Harley. Not too close, not too far, just enough to keep him in sight. He pulled out his phone, swiping the screen, dialing the police. The display froze. He couldn't press any buttons. "Shit," he muttered, eyes darting between Zora and the Harley. "Don't stop," Zora said. "Please, don't stop." He didn't. He couldn't. Not after her reaction at the poster. Personally, he'd have called the police and left it at that. But Zora wouldn't accept just a phone call. And if she wasn't satisfied, he wouldn't hear the end of it. Their reward money hadn't been half bad either. So he stayed behind the Harley, unease pressing on his shoulders. Like animals that already knew the hunt's direction, they followed. The biker veered suddenly off the road and into a sagging garage at the edge of town. The structure leaned inward, its roof buckled, the entrance gaping wide. Shadows pooled inside like slow spreading ink. Zora leaned forward before she could stop herself. "Hey, that's not your baby! Stop!" she shouted, leaning out the passenger side window. "Hey, I'm talking to you!" The rider dismounted with stiff, deliberate movements, paying no mind to her. The mechanic stepped out of the garage, shotgun already raised, as if he'd been waiting for this exact moment. In a small town like this, where everyone knew everyone, he'd probably been keeping an eye out for a man in a denim jacket on a Harley-Davidson. His coveralls were smeared with grease, his face pale, eyes wide. "Stop right there, buddy," he barked. His voice shook, barrel unwavering. The rider froze. "Hands!" the mechanic snapped. "Let me see your hands." Slowly, the man raised them. Not fully. Then, in a twitch, his hand dropped toward his belt. The shotgun cracked. The rider went flying, skidding across the pavement. His helmet bounced and clattered. Zora screamed, dodging under the dashboard, hands covering her ears. "Stay here," Baco said, voice trembling despite himself. He stepped out, approaching the mechanic, who shook violently, shotgun wobbling. "He had a gun," the mechanic babbled. You saw him reaching. He was going to kill us." Barrel still pointing at the limp figure on the floor. "You saw him." But Bako barely heard. Something was wrong. No blood, no twitching, no hitch of breath or final sound. The body lay still, too still, not like a man shot, like something hollowed out and left behind. Bako crouched and tugged the helmet free. Beneath it was no face at all. Smooth, waxy, featureless, faintly shining under the garage's harsh light. He staggered back, breath caught in his throat, eyes wide in disbelief. Then Bako blinked. All of a sudden there were eyes, nose, mouth, ordinary, whole, as if nothing had been missing. A cold pulse ran up his spine. Fear, disbelief, awe tangled together. Zora rushed into the motorcycle, drawn by the muffled cries. She lifted the carrier's latch. No baby, only a single enormous egg. Its leathery shell pulsed, faint but deliberate, probing its prison. Sticky, gooey residue clung to it. Zora's breath hitched. "What is this?" Something slammed into Bako from behind while his attention was on his wife's confused voice. He went sprawling, crashing into a pile of scraps. Air knocked from his lungs. The rider was on his feet. No blood, no limp, no hint of injury. And he walked toward them. The mechanic fired again, and again. Buckshot tore through the sunlight, but the man didn't flinch. Each step a slow, dreadful march. Inches from the mechanic, the shotgun clicked empty. Mouth open, disbelief frozen, fingers squeezing the trigger. Click, click, click. A hand clamped around the mechanic's throat, lifting him as if he weighed nothing. Boots flailed uselessly. "Hey!" Bako shouted, lunging. The rider swatted him aside like a fly. Bako hit the ground rolling before coming to a stop. The mechanic's head jerked, twisted. A wet snap sounded. The body went limp and fell. Bako grabbed a rusted pipe, swung with all his strength. It rang against the rider's skull. The man barely blinked, eyes cold and empty as winter ice. The next blow sent Bako crashing into the bike. It tipped over. The egg thumped to the floor, leaving a wet, sticky substance on the ground, but remained whole. Thick, sulfurous steam hissed out. Something inside writhed. Zora screamed. They ran, stumbling to the car. Bako slipped and fell on the gooey residue on the ground. It hissed, burning his skin before it disappeared. They dove in. Engine coughed to life. Tires shrieked as they fled. In the rearview mirror, Bako saw him. Calmly remounting the Harley as if nothing had happened, the radio hissed, static spitting. Zora covered her ears. Bako fumbled for the knob, turning it to silence, eyes locked on the mirror. Bako, Bako, Bako. Her voice was sweet, sing-song, tugging him back from the place his mind had wandered. He blinked, turned. Zora leaned toward him, holding the ice cream cone right up to his lips. "Here, last bite." "What the hell is going on?" he thought, frowning. "What?" "I'm finishing it," she said. Her dimples deepened with a grin, eyes catching the last rays of sunlight. He looked at the mirror, then at the radio, which was still playing the song they were singing along to before they encountered the rider. He looked at Zora, who seemed completely unbothered. She had been screaming a second ago. Now she was eating ice cream without a care in the world. Something was wrong. Something was definitely off. He checked the rearview mirror again. Nothing. Did I just imagine all that? It can't be, he thought, looking at his wife again. He reached back and touched his skin, trying to feel where he had been hurt. Nothing. He was fine. But it couldn't be. He knew he'd been hurt. He even remembered the burning of that egg-like gooey substance. Zora turned to the window, picking the song back up. She hummed along, head swaying, hair brushing her cheek. A girl without a care in the world. but the sunlight glinting off the windshield made the road behind them shimmer, almost alive, almost watching. "Did you see—" Bako began. Then the words died in his throat. In the rearview mirror, he thought he saw it again. For a second, just a second, a blur of denim and chrome, the gleam of handlebars, a shadow in motion. Then it rippled, vanished. Empty asphalt stretched behind them, sun glaring off its surface. "See what?" Zora asked, turning to him. Her eyes, bright in the fading sunlight, searched his face. The road behind them was clear, a lone truck far off, nothing more. "Bako, what is it? I thought I—" He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Never mind." She studied him a moment longer, suspicion flickering across her face. Then she shrugged, licked a drip of vanilla from her finger, and went back to humming. Bako's hands tightened on the wheel. The leather felt slick beneath his palms. The hum of the tires, the faint rattle of the chain in the backy bed, the distant wind along the road, all felt sharper, more insistent. Outside, the sun dipped lower. The sky bled orange. Every shadow stretched long and thin, like black fingers reaching across the asphalt. The trees along the roadside cast uneven lattices across the windshield. He could almost imagine the light shifting on the road behind them. But he dared not look. Chapter 3. The following morning, Bako woke with a clear head. No dreams, no shadows lurking in corners, no rider in the rearview mirror. Just sunlight, coffee, and Zora frying eggs in the kitchen, humming a church hymn off-key. They ate together at the small table by the window, the smell of butter and toast clinging to the curtains. Zora laughed at something dumb he said, and for a while it felt like any other Sunday. After breakfast, he drove her to church, dropped her off with a kiss and a promise to be back before noon. The streets were quiet, mostly empty. Sundays always gave the town a hollow ring, like the whole place was holding its breath. On the way back, he stopped at the liquor store. Habit, more than anything. A bottle of Jack Daniels tucked under his arm when he walked back out, the cool air biting at his face. That's when he saw it again. Wanted. Big red letters. Below it, a blurry black and white photo of the man on the Harley, denim jacket, personalized plate, rider. Bako's eyes sagged, all excitement draining. "Shit," he muttered. "Not this again." His head swam, vision blurring. He braced himself against the wall, squeezing his eyes shut as if trying to force the image out of his brain. When he opened them again, the poster had changed. "Safe abortion," it read, along with the usual nonsense those posters always carried. He shook his head, muttering under his breath. His eyes dropped to the bottle in his hand. "Well, Jack," he said softly, half smiling, "you finally did it. My head's officially fucked." He chuckled, imagining Zora's face if she heard him say that. She'd have a field day. "See, I told you, that bottle's gonna rot your brain." Bako was a heavy drinker. At least that's what he called himself. Zora used a different word, full-blown alcoholic. And Bako, like always, had the same comeback ready. "At least my head lives in reality. Not up in the clouds, believing in some old dude in the sky who keeps an oven ready for all the sinners of the world." Still muttering to himself, he slid back into the car. The air inside was warm, stale with yesterday's whiskey breath. He picked up the old plastic cup from the holder, stained brown along the inside, tacky with dried liquor. "When the hell did I even buy this cup?" he murmured, frowning. Couldn't even remember the last time it had been cleaned. He sniffed the rim. It smelled faintly of sour bourbon and dust. "Alcohol's a sterilizer anyway," he muttered, Running 2 fingers around the rim and blowing into it like that would do a damn thing. Then he twisted open the jack, poured a healthy shot into the cup, filling it nearly to the top. He raised it to his nose, sniffed long and deep, closed his eyes, and smiled. "That's the stuff," he whispered, then tossed it back in a single gulp. The burn hit instantly, shoulders twitched, spine jolted like an electric current. "Breakfast of champions," he said, coughing a laugh, and slammed the cup back into the holder. He turned the key. The engine coughed alive. Slow jams filled the cabin, Sunday smooth. He put the car in first gear and rolled out of the lot, humming along like nothing was wrong at all, except, just for a moment, in the glass of the liquor store window he'd passed, he thought he saw the reflection of a man on a motorcycle behind him. Baco's heart skipped. He checked the mirror. Empty parking. Nothing. Baco sang along with the radio, his baritone off-key, but full of confidence. The window was rolled down, the early sun warming the arm he had hanging out. He lifted it now and then, a lazy wave to the neighbors, men cutting grass, patching fences, pushing mowers in slow rows. Men his age, men who skipped church like him. The real ones, Baco thought. He never had much respect for the Sunday kneelers. Bunch of sissies, he'd call them, hiding behind prayers and hymnals. Knees were meant for the dirt of your own backyard, not the soft carpet of a pew. A man's job was to stand tall, face his own problems head on. Praying? That was the coward's way out. Closing your eyes, whispering to the ceiling, hoping somebody else would fix your mess. The light turned red ahead, and Baco eased to a stop. He unscrewed the cap on the jack and poured a full plastic cup, hands steady as if performing a practiced ritual. Cap back on, bottle in the passenger seat. He didn't even look at the light. Muscle memory told him when it was time. Every Sunday drive, same stretch of road, same dance with the traffic signal. He raised the cup, then drained it in one long swallow, just as the light flicked green. The whiskey burned all the way down, leaving his shoulders twitching, spine rippling with a shiver. He turned right, rolling past a stop sign. Up ahead, a road sign pointed left, a white arrow and a little gas pump icon. He glanced at it once, stomach tightening. Thought of yesterday, of the blurry poster, of the hallucination in the mirror. Then he shook his head, muttered something ugly under his breath, and flicked the blinker. Right anyway. Home was that way. He popped the armrest open, rummaging one-handed through the graveyard of receipts stuffed inside. His fingers fished around until they hit the thin cardboard edge of a cigarette pack. Jackpot. He kept his eyes on the road, glanced down only once as he pulled one out, slipped it between his lips and sparked the lighter. The smoke curled into his left eye, making it water. He winced, sucked in hard, then flicked ash out the window. That's when he glanced in the rearview mirror, and his stomach dropped. A motorcycle. It was there. Real. He heard it before he believed his eyes. The deep, throaty growl of a Harley engine chewing up the road, growing louder. Without thinking, Baco reached for the radio dial, twisting the volume down. Always did that when he wanted to see better, like sound got in the way of vision. The bike roared closer. His grip tightened on the wheel, jaw clamped. He leaned forward, squinting at the license plate, trying to focus, needing to see. The Harley shot past, wind buffeting the car, chrome flashing in the sun. Not the same one. Different plate. Different rider. Relief spilled through him like water. His shoulders slumped, hand coming off the wheel. He held it in front of his face. The damn thing was shaking. Tremors, small but real, making his fingers flutter like loose strings. He curled it into a fist, squeezed until the tremor stopped, then returned it to the wheel. The radio still played soft in the background, syrupy Sunday love songs, and Baco forced a chuckle, but the sound rang hollow. because even with the bike gone, he couldn't shake the feeling that the rumble of its engine hadn't really left. It was still there, somewhere deeper down, vibrating through his bones. Bucko slammed the brakes. Tires screamed, skidding across the asphalt, leaving long black scars on the road. The car jolted, his momentum hurling him forward against the belt. The Jack Daniels bottle rolled off the passenger seat, clattering to the floor with a hollow sound, like a bell in an empty church. The car stopped dead in the middle of the road. His chest heaved. For a moment, the only sound was the tick of the cooling engine. He raised his eyes to the rearview mirror. Back there in the distance, he could still make out the signs. Faded green, chipped white paint, a simple petrol pump icon, an arrow pointing. Petrol station this way. Ridiculous. But he could almost hear the sign whisper it to him. A taunt, an invitation. He sat there smoking, each drag a shaky lifeline. The mirror caught his face when he shifted, and for the first time he really looked. His own eyes looked back at him, but different. Linned, weathered. New wrinkles fanned out from the corners, thin cracks spreading like fractures in old glass. He stared too long, and it felt like the reflection was watching him back. Slowly, his gaze broke, turned back through the rear window at the sign one last time. The arrow pointing, still pointing, always pointing. "Fuck it," he muttered, low, rough. He slammed his foot on the accelerator. The car roared, tires shrieking as he yanked the wheel full around. Smoke curled up from the road in a choking cloud, rubber burning. In seconds, the car spun to face the other way, trembling under his hands. He pressed harder, shifting fast, the engine growling raw as it pulled him toward the garage, toward the answer, toward whatever waited there. He didn't know if he was chasing truth or chasing madness, but he knew he had to find out. The car growled under him, but Bucko's eyes weren't on the road. They kept darting to the rearview mirror, jaw clenched, bracing, half expecting to see that rider again, helmet glinting, engine snarling, always closing in. Part of him prayed he wouldn't. Part of him prayed he would. Because if the bike was real, maybe he wasn't losing his mind. He pressed even harder on the accelerator, the speedometer needle ticking up steadily, 100, 120, 140, 160. His palms sweated on the wheel. Then the flash caught his eye, blue light bouncing in the mirror. "Ah, shit. No, not again," he said, slamming on the brakes. The cruiser grew larger, sirens strobing in silence, washing his rear window in blue. His stomach dropped. He glanced at the speedometer again, 100 now, still too fast. Could almost feel the cuffs already, cold metal closing around his wrists. Zora's voice echoed in his head, sharp as broken glass. "You get caught again, Bucko. I swear I won't come for you. You'll rot there." He swallowed hard, watching the lights fill the glass, closer, closer. Then the police car shot past. Didn't slow, didn't glance, just gone in a blur of steel and light. Bucko exhaled, a rough laugh breaking out of him, relief washing over like cold water. His grip on the wheel loosened. That was a close one. He let the words slip into the empty car, though they rang hollow. His shoulders sagged, but the unease didn't leave him. He knew how fast luck could turn. Not long ago, Zora had bailed him out of the holding cell for speeding and driving under the influence. Her face had been red with fury, redder with shame. She'd sworn it would be the last time, that next time she'd leave him to rot. Bucko had laughed then. She wouldn't. She couldn't. She was too sweet, too soft. Cute as a button, or however that saying goes. Beneath the dimples and the easy smile, Zora could be dangerous when pushed. And if he ended up back in that cell, she'd make damn sure he paid. His relief lasted all of 30 seconds. By the time his cigarette had burned down to the filter, the knot was back in his gut. His eyes clung to the rear view like it was a lifeline, searching for blue lights, for the rider, for something. Nothing came, just the empty road behind him, trembling in the mirror. But up ahead, the world grew sharper, meaner. The garage was coming into view. He eased off the gas, fingers tightening on the wheel. The closer he got, the louder the engine seemed, the hum vibrating through his teeth, through his bones. His chest tightened. He half hoped the place wouldn't even be there, that he'd pull up to an empty lot, nothing but weeds and cracked concrete. But it was there, and so were the police. Blue and red strobes washed across the faded paint of the building, spilling out onto the road. Yellow tape fluttered like warning flags in the breeze. Squad cars lined the front, doors hanging open, radios squawking faintly. A handful of uniforms clustered near the entrance, heads bowed, murmuring. Baco's mouth went dry. He coasted to the side of the road, tires crunching against gravel, engine idling low. For a long moment he just sat there, gripping the wheel, heart thudding in his ears. So it wasn't just in my head. His lips trembled as he reached for the bottle on the passenger seat. His hand hovered, then pulled back. His gaze fixed on the garage doors, half shuttered now, police tape stretching across them like stitches across a wound. A crime scene, exactly where he'd been yesterday. Baco's throat worked, a dry swallow catching halfway down. What the hell did I see? Baco got out of the car, knees loose, like they didn't want to hold him up. Two officers stood guard by the mechanic's shop next to the petrol station. He tried to keep his walk steady, casual, but his eyes kept wandering, searching, until they locked on it. A length of steel pipe, bent just so, exactly like the one he'd used to strike the rider. His stomach twisted. Hands went clammy, wet as if dunked in cold water. Fingerprints. Every last one of them was probably on there. Who am I kidding? He stared, hypnotized, not noticing the young cop until a firm hand pressed flat against his chest. Sorry, sir. Active crime scene. You can't go this way, the officer said, voice tight, clipped. Too fresh-faced, high school on his breath. Baco's throat went dry. Sorry, just what happened here? I was here yesterday. The words rushed out, too eager, a seed planted in case they dusted that pipe. Sir, the kid repeated, steel creeping into his tone despite his youth. Active crime scene. You'll need to go back to your car. Is Patrick okay? Baco asked, craning to see past him, voice too light, too innocent, as if he didn't already know. The officer stepped in, blocking his view. Baco wobbled, caught himself against the kid's shoulder. The cop recoiled slightly, a flicker of sour disgust. Maybe the whiskey on Baco's breath, maybe the whole damn scene. Sir, back in your car, he snapped, louder this time, arm jerking to point at Baco's sedan. That shout brought another man out, a detective, older, harder. Looked like he hated mornings, hated people, hated everything. Hey, what's going on here? This man is drunk and refuses to leave the crime scene, the young officer barked. Oh, that's what it is, Baco thought, bitter. The detective's eyes landed on him, sharp and appraising. Is that true, Baco? Baco ignored him. Is Patrick okay? His voice trembled in that perfect way, or maybe it wasn't acting. The detective didn't blink, didn't answer, just stared. You know this man? Before Baco could speak, the rookie piped up. He said he was here late yesterday. The detective silenced him with a flick of his hand. This little shit's trying to hang me, Baco thought. Side-eye to the cop, who returned the look with defiance only youth can muster. But the detective was the real problem. Yeah, I know him, Baco said, voice loose, swaying just enough to look sloshed. Good man. Good mechanic. The detective didn't nod, didn't shake, just studied him like a man writing a story about Baco he wouldn't like the ending of. Where's Patrick? Is he in there? Did something happen to him? Words tumbled out. jagged like loose change rattling in a tin can. He started toward the shop, voice rising. "Patrick! Patrick! Come out, buddy! Patrick!" The young officer slid in front again, hand on Baco's chest. A shove sent him stumbling backward, shoes scuffed on the pavement. The world tilted. He fought to stay upright. The detective moved in, calm, deliberate, left arm outstretched in a quieting gesture. Voice low, steady, almost kind. "Baco, settle down. Let these officers do their job." Baco opened his mouth, but the detective didn't give him the chance. "Tell you what, go home. I'll come by tomorrow, take your statement, tell you everything you need to know, all right?" Baco hesitated. Eyes flicked from detective to rookie, hand hovering too lovingly on a taser, jaw clenched, nostrils flaring. "How about it?" the detective pressed, smooth, edged with steel. Baco said nothing, just stared. Then the detective leaned in fractionally. "Or should I call Zora? Have her come pick you up?" Shoulders sagged, air leaking like a punctured tire. "You don't have to bring her into this," he muttered. "All right then," the detective said softly. "We'll see you tomorrow." Baco turned toward the car, giving the young officer one last glare, meant to bite. Only hardened the kid's stare. Every step toward the car, heavy, deliberate, shoes echoing across the lot. As he slid into the driver's seat, he caught the detective scolding the rookie, tone sharp. He couldn't make out words, but it was enough. A tiny smile tugged at his mouth. Well, if that wasn't an Oscar-worthy performance, he didn't know what was. Pride warmed him, along with something darker, coiling low in his gut. Before starting the engine, his eyes flicked back to the shop. A little black dome above the door, half hidden by the chipped overhang. A surveillance camera. He froze, pulse thundering, chest tight. Fear or shock or something colder clamped down, rooting him in place. This is not good. How the hell did I miss that before? The bravado from a minute ago shriveled away like smoke. His Oscar-worthy act? Cheap theater now, all captured in black and white. He could almost see the detective's smirk when he replayed the tape, feel the satisfaction rolling off him in waves. And there was more, always more. Zora, high school sweetheart of the detective, before Baco moved into town, before he stole her away. Ancient history to everyone else, but he knew. He saw that flicker in the detective's eyes whenever paths crossed. A small, hard gleam. Resentment. And now, with that tape, the son of a bitch would finally have his chance. Baco slipped the car into first gear and eased off the clutch. The engine grumbled low, resentful, as the tires rolled over gravel, tiny stones crackling and popping beneath the weight like dry bones. He twisted the steering wheel hard to the right until it refused to turn, gave it some gas, and felt the front tires bite the tar, gripping with a hunger that felt almost alive. He glanced back one last time, jaw tight, frustration simmering in his chest. Something gnawed at him, something he didn't want to name. His hand drifted to the passenger seat, moving on its own. The cigarette pack lay there like an old friend, or a bad habit pretending to be one. He shook one loose, pressed it between his lips, tossed the pack aside, and lit it. The flame flickered, a tiny sun in the dim interior. He drove in silence, no radio, no hum, just the road whispering beneath the wheels, the soft crackle of tobacco each time he drew in, the faint hiss of smoke leaving his lungs. The air felt thick, heavy with thoughts he couldn't shake. Every mile stretched like a confession he refused to make. By the time he reached home, the cigarette was a stub, burning between his fingers. Outside, daylight pressed against the windshield, empty, endless, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Baco pulled up in front of the garage and killed the engine. The silence that followed was thick, humming in his ears. He grabbed his cigarettes and lighter, then scanned the car, forehead creasing as his eyes darted over the seats, like they were searching for something that didn't want to be found. There, under the passenger seat, a black and white bottle cap. "Old number 7, he muttered, reaching over and fishing the bottle out. The lines on his forehead softened, corners of his mouth twitching. A small crooked smile crept across his face, like his muscles had forgotten how to do it right. "It's the little things," he said, low and dry, "that make all this bullshit worth going through." He took one more look at the bottle, then stepped out of the car. Sunlight beamed in his eye. Gravel crunched under his boots as he walked toward the house, the weight of the day trailing him like a shadow that refused to stay behind. In front of the door, Bako tucked the bottle under his arm and patted his pockets for the keys. His fingers found them, cold and familiar. He missed the keyhole once, twice, 3 times, and laughed softly instead of cursing. No frustration left in him. It had happened too many times before. He squinted at the key, realizing it was upside down. "Figures," he muttered. He turned it, pushed, and the door swung open faster than expected. He staggered, caught himself on the handle, nearly went down anyway. He tossed the keys onto the table with a clatter, pulled a glass from the cabinet, and dropped onto the couch. The whiskey poured out in a slow amber ribbon. He took a sip, just one, then lit another cigarette. The lighter's flame danced, reflecting in his tired eyes. He grabbed the remote and clicked on the TV. Static. Then a news anchor's voice cut through the room. "Authorities continue to search for the missing child. The rider seen leaving the area is still unidentified." Bako stared at the screen. His heart didn't race, just thudded, slow and heavy. Something about the words made his throat tighten. The rider, the police. Maybe they were looking for him. "Not in the house, Bako." The voice snapped through his trance. He froze, cigarette halfway to his lips. For a moment he thought he'd imagined it. He turned the volume down, the anchor fading into a whisper. The only sound left was the shower running somewhere down the hall. "Zora," he called out. "Don't smoke in the house," came the reply, calm, familiar, too normal. He stared at the hallway for a long time, smoke curling between his fingers, the bottle of whiskey sweating quietly beside him. "Why are you home early?" Bako asked, eyes flicking to the wall clock. "Shouldn't you still be in church?" The shower cut off. For a moment, there was only the soft drip of water and the echo of her voice floating down the hall. "There was no service today," Zora called back. The pastor and the whole congregation went to comfort Julia after the news about her husband. Bako's head turned slightly, eyes narrowing. "What happened to him?" he asked, though he already knew. The images rose uninvited, hands clutching, a neck twisting with a wet snap that still echoed in the quiet corners of his mind. "He fell and broke his neck," Zora said. "They say he didn't come home last night. Found this morning by one of the customers. Poor Julia, widowed so young." Her voice kept going, distant and steady, but Bako wasn't listening anymore. His thoughts froze as he broke his neck. The words hung in the air like smoke, heavy, impossible to wave away. "Bako, Bako, Bako." Zora's voice echoed, distant at first, then growing clearer, like someone tuning in from a bad dream. "Huh?" he said, world sliding back into focus. He looked up from the floor, dazed. "What's wrong?" Zora asked, stepping closer. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Are you all right?" Her eyes drifted toward the coffee table, to the half-empty bottle of whiskey. Bako's gaze followed hers, shame and something darker coiling low in his chest. He cleared his throat. No, it's not that," he muttered. "Are you sure?" she pressed, tone sharpening. "Yeah." He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Zora wasn't buying it. A skeptical glint lingered there, half worry, half suspicion. Bako's eyes moved from the bottle to her face. "What do you remember?" he asked slowly. "About yesterday, after the supermarket?" Zora looked at him, eyebrows pulling close together. Bakos sighed. "I know you don't remember this, but..." He recounted what happened, words stumbling over one another. Zora kept quiet while he told the story about the rider, the egg, and Patrick's death. Zora reached for him, voice soft, face painted with worry. Bako could tell right there and then that she didn't believe a word he said. "Bako, calm down, please. You're just imagining things, all right? Whatever you think happened, it didn't." "But what about Patrick?" Bako's voice cracked. "I saw how he died, Zora. I knew his neck was broken before you even told me. Because I was there, I saw it happen. The rider snapped his neck right in front of me." "Bako," she said carefully. "The police said Patrick fell. He broke his neck in an accident." "Yeah, that's what they're saying now," he shot back. "But once the investigation starts, once they see the bruises, they'll call it foul play. And when that happens, I'll be the first name on their damn list." "Oh, Zora, what are we gonna do?"